This is Craig Wescoe recording for TCGplayer.com, and today I'm going to play this standard Bant No Company deck. So this is a deck that I think matches up well against the decks that did well at the Pro Tour. It's similar to Bant Company in that it has Reflector Mage, it has Spell Queller, it has Sylvan Advocate, but beyond those, instead of playing Collected Company and then a bunch more cards like Duskwatch Recruiter and other creatures that you could hit off of Collected Company, I play Gideon as kind of the replacement for Collected Company. And by doing that, I can then play other spells instead of 3 mana or less creatures. So I can afford to play cards like Stasis Snare, Negate, um, Oath of Nissa, Ojutai's Command, Clash of Wills, all that kind of jazz. Now, the reason that I'm doing this is because I feel like Gideon matches up better against the metagame than the card Collected Company. So everyone's running Kozilek's Return and Languish as a way to kind of wrath the entire board, and Gideon matches up great against both those cards, whereas Collected Company, not so much. And also, the removal spell that I really like in this format right now is Stasis Snare. So it can hit a Eldrazi Deep Fiend, it can hit Emrakul, it can hit Avacyn at the right time. It can hit pretty much any of the creatures that you really want to hit right away. And being instant speed is really important for hitting a lot of those cards, like hitting Emrakul before they take your turn, hitting the Deep Fiend while they're trying to tap you out on your upkeep, kill the Avacyn during combat when they're trying to ambush block you. So it just matches up well against the creatures in the format. Gideon matches up well against the removal spells in the format. So I really want to have both those cards in my deck. And then Oath of Nissa is kind of one of the ways that Green-White Tokens was able to be a consistent deck, and it's also a way for Green-Black Delirium to be a consistent deck. And so by moving away from the card Collected Company, you can now play cards like Oath of Nissa to make us a more consistent deck where we get our mana when we want our mana. We can get creature spells when we want creatures, and it can find our Gideon too. So I really like the addition of Oath of Nissa in this deck. And I also like Den Protector because it can help get back a lot of our cards, especially our counter magic. So we have 10 main deck counter spells. We have 4 Spell Queller, 2 Ojutai's Command, 2 Clash of Wills, and 2 Negate. So countering a spell is a big deal in Standard right now because so many people are trying to play big cards. They're trying to emerge these giant monsters, play out this 13 mana Eldrazi, trying to resolve a bunch of planeswalkers like in black-white mid-range. Just everyone wants to do these big things, or even just Collected Company. And so Negate is really powerful right now. It has targets in just about every deck that's being played. And Clash of Wills, same way. So I like just having mana up so I can do that. And then Ojutai's Command, I don't have a lot of creatures I can get back. It's mostly just Sylvan Advocate and sometimes a Den Protector face up, for some marginal value. But just being able to counter a creature and draw a card is a really big deal against a lot of decks. So this is kind of where I'm at right now. Tracker, also a great way to gain value, allows us to just sit behind counter magic. And then for my removal, in addition to Clash of Wills and Ojutai's Command, and Spell Queller, I have 4 Reflector Mage and 4 Stasis Snare. So both these cards can basically deal with any creature. It's not like Grasp of Darkness, kill only the small things, but not the Deep Fiends and the Emrakuls. It's not like Declaration in Stone, where it backfires, and they Emrakul you, and you Declaration in Stone your own creature, and just kind of go crazy. Reflector Mage and Stasis Snare can only target opposing creatures, so it's really hard to make that backfire under an Emrakul. So this deck is kind of designed to be able to withstand an opposing Emrakul and win even when the opponent casts Emrakul, because we can either counter it with one of our 6 counters, or 4 counters, I guess. Negate can't stop it, or we just stasis snare it after it enters the battlefield before they take the turn. So we have 4 snare, 4 counter spells that can counter it. So it's 8 answers to Emrakul. And then we don't have a lot of ways to have our own spells backfire against us because our spells are designed to only hurt the opponent's cards. So this deck is really sweet right now. It's kind of a sweet spot, almost like a next level Bant type deck. Back when Eldrazi Conscription Mythic Bant was like the big deck, and then the next level Bant just found that sweet spot. And I feel like this deck, it might not be exactly correct as far as the card choices. I might be off a little bit on the numbers, but I think that this general approach is a good place to be right now in the wake of the Pro Tour. So now in our sideboard, we get even more counter magic if that's what we want. So a lot of the matchups, like black-white mid-range, where there are a bunch of planeswalkers and spells, we want more negates. And against Bant Company, we just want answers to their Dromoka's commands and their collected companies, so we bring in Dispel. Sometimes we just need to kill a flyer, whether it's an Angel deck, an Emrakul, I don't think I bring this in against Mindwreck Demon, but sometimes against like an Avacyn type deck, Spell Quellers. It's just a good card to have. Some people are even playing Ormondal. That's just an additional answer to that. This and Dragonlord Ojtai are kind of the 2 slots that are most flexible in the sideboard, I think. But they're in there right now. Ojtai's Command, another card that comes in against decks where we want to gain life, or they're trying to resolve a big creature. Den Protector is just our main attrition card that allows us to just kind of do our thing, trade our counters for their spells, then just Den Protector, bring them back, counter their spells again. Dromoka's Command, excellent at killing enchantments. So whether it's Always Watching, Sphinx's Tutelage, any sort of problematic enchantment. Also great at fighting creatures, countering a burn spell. It just comes in a lot of matchups where it's just very useful. I'm strongly considering a 3rd copy. The Tragic Arrogance is our primary plan against aggressive decks, especially on the draw. So against White Weenie decks, against Bant Company decks, things like that, we really want to just resolve this card. We don't need it, but it's a card that is just kind of lights out if we cast it. And we can get it back with Den Protector if the game goes in that direction. I don't like Archangel Avacyn main deck, mostly because there's so many Grasp of Darknesses going around right now. And between like green-black Delirium and black-white Planeswalker mid-range. So I don't like it main deck, but against the decks that aren't doing that, it can be very powerful. So I like having one in the sideboard. Dragonlord Ojtai is against control decks and blue-white spirits. Those aren't really very popular right now, so this might end up getting squeezed out for something that's better in the current metagame, but it's a card that is good to have if the metagame shifts. It's also just a pretty strong win condition. So that's basically where we're at right now. And this deck, I really like what it's doing. I'm still trying to figure out the numbers, but I think it's real close to being where I want to be this weekend. So if you want to try something a little bit new, try this out and read my article, watch the videos.